Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for January 25, 2022, the Kuwait Pursues ABC edition. And we begin with that story, somewhat amazingly enough. Well, first of all, from a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, Defense News reports that Kuwait is pursuing corruption charges in a Eurofighter plane deal. The government said it had referred 2 senior military officers for prosecutions in a major corruption case related to the country's purchase of the Eurofighter Typhoon combat planes after an investigation into the jet's improperly inflated prices. The Kuwait Anti-Corruption Authority said that a major general and colonel in Kuwait's army could face prosecutions over their alleged misuse of public funds, the latest corruption case to rock the oil-rich sheikdom. Officials are ramping up a long-flagging campaign towards greater accountability as government graft increasingly causes public and parliamentary consternation. So we have a Gulf country pursuing corruption charges. So that's certainly worthy of the Daily Compliance News. Next up from Reuters, Latham Watkins has hired 2 senior attorneys to run their ESG effort. They hired Betty Huber and Sarah Fort as leaders of the ESG team. They will co-chair it with Paul Davis. The firm said that ESG presents a front and center concern in New York as well as in other major financial centers. We see it in nearly every transaction, from IPO to ESG-focused Activision and shareholder proposals to mergers and green financing. Well, when law firms start practices around a subject matter, you can tell it is here to stay. Next up from the New York Times, the story of James Inazazo, a customer at a smoothie shop in Fairfield, Connecticut, who, after having ordered a smoothie, got into a tirade demanding to know who made the drink, and he hurled the smoothie at a worker who he called an immigrant loser before trying to barge into the employee-only area. The man is facing a hate crime for this, and he has also been terminated from his job at Merrill Lynch. So, engage in a hate crime, at least at Merrill Lynch, you're going to be terminated. So, pretty sad story. And finally, an interesting article from the Wall Street Journal on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And they claim that there may be a sustainability issue around Activision Blizzard and ESG. So more difficulties for Microsoft. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.